All right, I'm here amongst my plants again to do a little video on some body structure behind the gun topics. So the last couple of seasons, everybody from the big name shooters, all the big name coaches have been talking about how to eliminate tension behind the gun. And that's very important. And then when we start to talk about grip, people really think about squeezing the gun and using their hands. And this is where I want to tie the two things together. I don't think about grip as just being squeezing the gun really hard. I think about grip starting with my hands and finding a way to transfer the energy that's hitting my hands through my body into my feet and then hopefully into the ground. So with that analogy in mind, I like to call it my foundation behind the gun. You could adjust your grip and have a crappy foundation behind the gun. That's why I like to separate the two, right? So I'm not going to talk about thumb position, hand position, all those things. We basically all come to the conclusion that some general sense of thumbs forward, strong on the gun, high and tight, blah, 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 use your keywords. That's great. Everybody can find a different version of what works for them. That's not what I want to really talk about today. What I want to talk about is body position, body structure from the waist up and then a little bit from the waist down. So we talk about tension behind the gun, how to eliminate tension. And what I think we're trying to talk about is not like choking out our shoulders and neck, obviously taking the tension out of our shoulders and neck. What that means though is I need a certain amount of tension to hold the gun. If I squeeze it hard as hell with my hands and I just don't have any tension back here, what's going to happen? The gun's going to kind of flop all over the place. So that's where people start adding tension, and you get this squeeze effect, and you get this shoulders rolled forward and this neck forward effect. I'm guilty. You can go back and watch videos from several seasons ago, even 2 seasons ago, where I'm really turtled forward, right? I have a rifle here because we're going to talk about it with a rifle too, but that turtling forward effect is not very helpful. What we want to learn to do is take the tension out of my neck and shoulders, leave the gun where it is, grip where it is, roll my shoulders down and back away from my ears, and learn to then add the tension to my armpits, to my back, right? I like to tell people that I want you to think about, if I had balloons in my armpits right now, I want to try to add tension to those balloons in my armpits to hold the gun, right? You can see this kind of wrenching down effect. And what's cool about this is as I start to get into transitions, totally different topic, it's a lot easier for me to look where I'm going and push this whole unit instead of trying to snake my shoulders and head there and hope my belly button catches up, right? So what I've tried to project to my students is take your shoulders, start your grip, take your shoulders up, back as far as you can, down. You've just tricked yourself into using your lats. Now you should feel like that jerk that walks around the gym like this. Good. I want that to be the case. Why? Because that jerk is flexing his lats and I want you to be flexing your lats. I want you to be thinking about using your lats to hold the gun. Now, once you've achieved that, the whole goal becomes, can I keep the tension out of my neck and shoulders, keep my shoulders down, and learn to then start a lot of my transitions. I like to think if you had a beam of light coming out of your belly button, that's where my transition is going to be coming from, which means I've successfully done the job of connecting my hands to my core to my hips obviously to my feet to the ground. So it becomes very easy for me to push energy from the ground up into my gun, but it also makes it incredibly easy for taking the recoil, taking the energy from the gun and allowing it to then come back into my lats instead of my shoulders. It's going to come back into my lats. If I'm leaned forward, that's going to hit me in the hips. That's going to disperse into the ground, and you're just going to have a nice flat shot pattern, right? So I want to actually illustrate this a little bit. I don't want to sit here and do a shirtless video, but bear with me for a second. I have a trick to show people this. Now, I'm sure the angle's not perfect again, but you can check out, I have some of these shirts for sale, Sooner Not Faster, and some of the last shirt I was wearing, just a sidebar. But why I like to do this is I like to be able to illustrate this with my body. So I got into fitness because of shooting. I'm not a fitness guy. I was a fat kid my whole life. I was a fat kid, like morbidly obese, until I got into shooting, and I realized, well, if I'm stronger and if I'm in better shape, it made it easier to command the gun. That has diminishing returns. Don't worry about that. What I do want to illustrate, though, is this point. If I have my shoulders rolled forward and my neck rolled forward, I lose all the tension in my core. I lose the ability to transition and keep the gun stable. And you'll have a lot of those wobbly transitions where you're overshooting or undershooting, and it feels like your hands are trying to keep up with your eyes. If you just can take these shoulders and, like I said, think about, all right, up, back, down. And now all of a sudden, boom, my lats are locked in. Now my head's upright, and you can start to talk about some neurological things. When I'm like this, I'm in my hunter-gatherer mode. I'm in the lizard brain mode of tunnel vision, like hunting with a spear. We don't want that shooting. When I'm up like this, This is me in observational mode. This is me looking over the Serengeti, trying to take in more information. And that's what we're looking for in shooting. I'm looking to stay nice and stable and be able to spot my next prey and push that whole unit there. And then all of a sudden you'll notice these transitions are very stable. They don't under travel or over travel as long as I stay tight here. Now I'm not fighting tension in my hands. This is where the tension gets put. I want to learn my grip. Left hand squeezes, right hand's relaxed. I could work on my trigger control and all that kind of stuff. But then this is where the tension is. So the big thing I like to then translate this to, got a rifle. Now, PCSL and, well, PCC became very popular in the last couple of years, but PCSL 2-gun, 3-gun is kind of making a comeback right now. So what I like to talk about is now the application of this. It's the same thing. Instead of getting behind a rifle, turtling over and leaning forward, well, why don't I just lock this in, bring this up to my body, roll this shoulder forward, and what do you know? I can now do these rocking transitions. I can now mount the gun, shoot the gun just like I would in pistol form. And if you know what my body looks like, boom, it's almost the same exact position. So you're learning this way to hold the gun, to do transitions, to generally control the gun with your big muscles. That translates to everything. Again, I don't like one-trick pony things. I don't want to do one trick in USPSA that works only for this stage or this steel challenge or this classifier. This, if you can just learn, take the gun, roll it into my back, look, boom, it becomes very easy to start using your core to hold the gun, to use your structure from the ground and build a solid foundation behind the gun, thinking about legs and back into the gun rather than trying to squeeze the gun with my shoulders, my neck, and my biceps. So again, this is what works for me. It's not the end all be all. I just want to explain to people, this is something that all winter long I'll work on. Is I won't even throw a draw in. I'm not even going to add any extra things. I'm going to start looking at my Dryfire King video or looking at my Dryfire targets. Gun low ready, lats packed on the beep, just learning to push my gun around at whatever my array is while keeping my shoulders down, my lats packed, my neck relaxed, keeping my grip the way it needs to be. So try it out, see what works for you. Everybody's going to look a little bit different, but the concept becomes the same. Build your grip, shoulders up, back down, lean forward. That's it. Becomes pretty simple. So enjoy.